لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسله الله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون. اللهم إنا أصبحنا نشهدك ونشهد حملة عرشك وملائكتك وجميع خلقك أنك أنت الله لا إله إلا أنت وحدك لا شريك لك وأن محمدا عبدك ورسولك. اللهم صل على محمد في الأولين وصل عليه في الآخرين وصل عليه في كل وقت وحين. We praise Allah Almighty and we thank Him and we give full gratitude to Him on this day of Jumu'ah, a day of congregation. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam reminded us with his words, أكثروا من الصلاة علي يوم الجمعة. Mention the prayers or invoke the prayers of calling on God to bestow blessings on me on the day of Jumu'ah. On this day, we are in a day that we reflect on the words of our Maker, the one who gave us life and one who gave us guidance. One of his names is Al-Hadi, the guide. Allah is the guide. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, تركت فيكم أمرين, I left amongst you or with you two things. ما إن تمسكتم بهما فلن تضلوا من بعدي أبدا. If you hold on to them, then you'll never lose your way after me. Kitabullah, the book of Allah, wa sunnatu rasuli, and the ways and the practices of his messenger. So Rasulullah pointed us to how we don't lose our ways, especially at times when we are confused, and we call them dark times. And nowadays, we are being called upon to think about what would be our choice for a president. And before we tackle this point, I want to always go to the book of Allah. I want to go to the Quran. And in Surah Al-Zukhruf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, talking about Fir'aun, the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh of Egypt is known to be the worst tyrant in history. So Allah teaches us how to deal with tyrant mentality or how to understand it. And it exposes, the Quran exposes to us how to read such a personality. And so the Quran says here, وَنَادَى فِرْعَوْنُ فِي قَوْمِهِ. And so Fir'aun called out into his people. And when the Quran used the word wanada, that means Fir'aun here pushed out his propaganda. Like nowadays, we see, for example, when somebody wants to push a message out, living in the social media times and living in the candidate world today, the candidate wants to push out his message forcefully, and he wants it to reach everybody. But here we have the head of the state, Fir'aun, using his own machinery, his propaganda. That means, of course, he did not gather people up and just give them an address. Well, the way he must have done it is that he would have published his speech, written speech prepared, and then he would have sent out his men to go out into the various areas of Egypt, the city and the suburbs and the countryside and to the remotest points. The question is that why is Fir'aun actually doing this campaign? And a campaign for what? And to understand why he would do something like this, since he is anyway the ruler of Egypt, only you just have to look for the verses before these verses that I just quoted, and Fir'aun called out into his people, قَالَ يَا قَوْمِ, he said, "O my people." Notice how he is addressing people, his own people, by drawing himself close to them. He says, "My people." Because at this point, he wants to show how much he is the man of the people. He is the guy for the common man. So he says, "Ya qawmi," my people. You are my people and I am of you. قال يا قومي أليس لي ملك مصر أليس لي ملك مصر. And here there is a rhetorical question. He didn't say the dominion and the reign over Egypt is mine, like he's telling them that I am the president of the United States of America. He's saying, isn't the reign of Egypt in my hand? أليس لي ملك مصر. That means he's not telling them, but he wants them to admit to the fact that he is the sitting president. He is the sitting Pharaoh. He wants to remind them who has the control of Egypt. Why is he saying this? Because he is speaking from a point of weakness. But you say he is the Pharaoh. How could he be in a point of weakness? You look at the verses before and you will see how that Allah is telling us, wherein وَمَا نُرِيهِمْ مِنْ آيَةٍ, no sign have we pushed their way, meaning very clear, strong sign, إِلَّا هِيَ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ أُخْتِهَا, bigger than its sister that preceded it. That means here is one sign, and then the next thing there's another one being pushed, bigger than the one before, meaning they're living through times where they're tumultuous times. What are those signs that came their way? So the Quran in another location says, فَأَرْسَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمُ الطُّوفَانِ, so we sent the flood upon them. وَالْجَرَادَ وَالْقُمَّلِ, and the locust. Flood everywhere, brings locust eats everything inside. And then after that you have insect infestation, وَالْقُمَّلِ. And then when you have insect infestation, it's followed by frogs everywhere, وَالضَّفَادِعِ. And the frogs eat the insects. One thing feeds on the other. And then the Quran says, وَالدَّمَ, and then the water itself of the rivers turned red. That means you have some form of algae in there that is poisonous. You couldn't really drink the water. So environmentally, your environment is in a disaster. And so these are one sign after another, and I start to wake up people. So the Quran says, وَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْعَذَابِ, and we put them through torment. What for? Because God enjoys tormenting people? No. He says because he wants to wake you up. Wake up. وَأَخَذْنَاهُمْ بِالْعَذَابِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْجِعُونَ, so that they will back away from the stance they have and the staunchness that they have, meaning the stubbornness and the rebellion. And so they appealed to Musa, and they said to him, meaning here through Pharaoh, the Pharaoh appealed to Musa, and he says, okay, call on your Lord, let him take this away. And so Musa did. And the Quran says, when we took away the difficulty, إِذَا هُمْ يَنْكِثُونَ, that means they went back on their word. They stuck to their staunchness. And so now the Pharaoh is in a bad position, but he wants to talk to his base. He wants to rally the base. He wants his supporters, because his position has been shaken in the country through these tumultuous times, because it happened in his reign and he couldn't do anything about it. And the one who could do something was Musa, his opponent. So now he gives this speech, and the intention of the speech is to talk to the base, to make the base stand by him. So he's telling them, who is the president today? Of course, the answer is you, Mr. Pharaoh. And then he reminds them And he says, وَهَذِهِ الْأَنْهَارُ تَجْرِي مِنْ تَحْتِي. And look at the rivers. They're flowing from underneath me. أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Can't you see? What was he talking about? He's lamenting his accomplishments. Look at how he caused the rivers of Egypt, and we know that the Nile is only the major river in there. So what was he talking about? He was talking about how you could say civilly, and he built a civil infrastructure, where he had drawn the waters of the Nile into the different parts of Egypt. So he wants to turn Egypt into like a utopia place where water runs underneath you everywhere you go. Imagine that everywhere you go there are parks and water is running right by you. I mean, he did monumental work there. So he's telling them, look at what I have done for them. Look at all the jobs I created. Look at all the stuff that I made over my reign, my time. Do you see what I provided for you? Meaning I am the one who really provides for you what you're enjoying today. I am behind your economical prosperity. I am behind all the greatness that you are living in today. Keyword, greatness. I made you great today. And then he says, أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو مهين. He says, come on, or am I not better than this guy? And he doesn't mention him by name. He didn't say, أم أنا خير من موسى. He doesn't even mention his name because his point is, go away. He wants him not to be in the spotlight because he wants the spotlight. He wants to be the person that all the focus and the eyes are in them. Reminds us of somebody that we seem to be seeing too much of him on the TV. And it says, أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو مهين, meaning no comparison between me and him. Mahin. And he uses the word mahin, and it means weak. The one who is weak. Mahin. Has no strength. Reminds me also of certain words somebody always says in his speeches. Oh, he's weak. Oh, he's weak. No, he's weak. أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو أم أنا خير من هذا الذي هو مهين ولا يكاد يبين. And he even, he doesn't have much of status in society. He's kind of like you don't understand what he really is about. You know, what is he about really? And so he doesn't give speeches too much. He's not going out there talking to people like me, like I making speeches all the time. Every time there's a camera, I want to be in front of the camera making speeches. Reminds me also of somebody we're seeing too often of him like this. And then he says those words. فَلَوْلَا أُلْقِيَ عَلَيْهِ أَسْوِرَةٌ مِّن ذَهَبٍ. He says only if some fixtures of gold are dressed, or he is dressed with fixtures of gold, meaning he comes in and you just award him gold all over his garments. And the reference to gold here in the culture of the Pharaoh and the old Egyptians is it shows greatness, عظمة. It shows richness. It shows excellence. فلولا ألقي عليه أسورة من ذهب. This shows you how this Pharaoh sees things in life, tangibles. How many towers do you have? How many palaces and hotels do you own? Look at me. فلولا, this is how he weighs things. فلولا ألقي عليه أسورة من ذهب أو جاء معه الملائكة مقترنين. Or he would be flaunted from both sides by the angels flaunting him, muqtaridin, meaning where is his entourage that comes in? And then the reference here to al-malaika. Al-malaika, the angels. You say, well, you mean to say that the Pharaoh believed in the angels? Yes, believed in the angels, and he believed that the angels are something from up above, up high, and it has a holiness to it. It brings holiness. So he says, where is the religious holiness that should be accompanied with Musa? I don't see it. That tells you he's not the rightful leader for you. He is talking to the minds of the masses, that he believes that if he tells them this rationale or this rationalization, they will believe what he has to say. So that takes us to the next verse. It shows us what kind of caliber and thinking he was talking to, the kind of Egyptian at the time he was trying to rally to stand by him, because he is in a point of weakness in front of Musa. He's afraid that his image in Egypt has been shaken, and he wants to restore that image. So what does he say? The Quran says here, he addressed them in that way. He talked to them with this rationale. He gave them this explanation to why he is better than Musa. So the Quran says, فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ. He says, in this manner, he took his people to be light in their head, light in their thinking. فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ, meaning he looked at them as he could tell them anything just about, and they'll accept it, they'll take it, they'll bite into it, because whatever comes out of his mouth must be right, because their thinking is that kind of thinking. فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ فَأَطَعُوهُ, and they listened to him or responded to his message. فَأَطَعُوهُ. Okay, so now the Quran tells you, what is the problem? Is it the Pharaoh? Was the Pharaoh the problem? Or was it the caliber of the people? What is in the head of the people? What is in the heart of the people? فَاسْتَخَفَّ قَوْمَهُ فَأَطَعُوهُ. So he talked to them in this light manner, addressed their mentality and their head, and they responded to him. فَأَطَعُوهُ. And the Quran wants to give you, in case you are surprised, why would they even stoop to that point? He told you that the problem lies inside. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا قَوْمًا فَاسِقِينَ, for that they were people that were corrupt inside. That explains why would somebody like him address me in this manner, and then I take it and I believe it. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العلي العظيم لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحابته أجمعين، رضين بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه وسلم نبيا ورسولا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. We praise Allah Almighty and we thank Him for guiding us to this, and that is the ways of Islam, to be able to see truth and from falsehood. And if it isn't for God guiding us, then we would be lost. Today we've listened to speeches, and yesterday to speeches, talking to our minds and talking to our soul from both political side of the country. And they both agree, both sides, that this is a fight for the soul of America. They say this is about the soul of America. And I venture to say, it's not only about the soul of America. It's also about the soul of every person in America. The principles that I've been talking about and what I talked about today speak more about who we are. What kind of person I am, or am I, that I would take a certain position or adopt a certain view. And why am I adopting this view? What leads me to this thinking? And as I said before, in the words of Allah, وَمَا تُغْنِي الْآيَاتُ وَالنُّذُرُ عَنْ قَوْمٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, for that clear signs and evidence and warnings don't do much in the face of those who adopt a rebellious rejecting attitude. No matter what you say, I don't want to hear you, when I am biased internally. But the messages continue, and the campaigning continue, and the style of trying to reach the minds and the souls of people continue. And the tactics of fear, instilling fear in the minds of the voters, continue. And I want to just remind you again that the Pharaoh ruled Egypt by two factors, two key elements wherein he ruled over the people of Egypt. The first one is the element of fear, al-khawf. If he can instill fear in you, he has ruled you. And the other one is myth, al-kadhib, which is to lie. Keep on lying, and he keeps on lying, and he keeps on lying, and you believe what he says. Then those are the two things that he ruled people by. Al-khurafa, myth. Al-kadhib, lying. Al-khurafa means something that is non-factual. It's myth. It has no factual basis. And this is what we hear coming out of these campaigns, is non-factuals, more reality TV than reality. We're seeing more reality TV action than the reality, the true reality, or the reality on the ground. Too much reality TV, not enough reality. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us the truth as truth and falsehood as falsehood, to show us truth and to help us adhere to it and follow it, and to show us falsehood and to steer us away from the ways of falsehood. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. Allahumma ighfir lana min indika maghfirah innaka anta al-ghafur ar-rahim. اللهم إن هذا حالنا لا يخفى عليك وهذا ضعفنا والتجاؤنا ظاهر بين يديك فلا تكلنا لأنفسنا طرفة عين ولا أقل من ذلك فنهلك وأنت رجاؤنا يا أرحم الراحمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبته أجمعين. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.